Hello and welcome to the Our Prenup Lawyer podcast, where you and I get to learn more about prenups as I interview professionals from the fields of family law, couples counseling, and wealth management. I'm your host, Libby Garabedian. Let's get started. The information provided in this podcast is prepared by Our Prenup Lawyer for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. The information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship. This is not legal advice or a substitute for obtaining legal advice from an attorney. A person listening or watching should not rely upon it in any manner without engaging professional counsel. The podcast is intended to communicate general information and, because recorded, may not be current. On this episode of Our Prenup Lawyer, I'm joined by Jayson Gaddis. Jayson is a renowned relationship coach, author, and founder of the Relationship School, an organization dedicated to teaching people the essential skills for creating and maintaining healthy, fulfilling relationships. With a background in psychology and decades of personal and professional experience, Jayson helps individuals and couples navigate conflict, improve communication, and deepen emotional intimacy. He hosts the popular Relationship School podcast, where he interviews leading experts in psychology, neuroscience, and personal development. Jayson is also the author of Getting to Zero, a practical guide for resolving conflict and fostering authentic connection. Known for his honest, down-to-earth approach, he blends science, empathy, and real-life tools to empower people to grow through their relationships rather than avoid them. His work has reached audiences worldwide, reshaping how modern relationships are understood and practiced. Welcome, Jayson.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Let's jump right in. And can you tell me about how you got started in this field?
Yeah, pain. A lot of relationship pain. Just being a guy who was emotionally jammed up. A lot of failed relationships where I always blamed the woman. And then eventually I was like, maybe I'm the problem. And that's when my life changed, because I was the problem, it turns out. And I went to study psychology and went to graduate school to study myself and how this whole relationship intimacy thing worked. And yeah, became a therapist, met my wife, and, everything's different now.
So how did that self-reflection and taking accountability, I want to touch upon that in a minute about other people's relationships, but how does it inform your own practice?
It's essential to get, I coach a lot of couples and individuals, and to get them from point A to B, they can't get there unless they take responsibility. It's a developmental step for children, and some children miss that step, and then they turn into adults who tend to point the finger at other people. And that's a very disempowering position, because you're putting the locus of control on someone else, and they have to change in order for you to feel okay. So that's never a good recipe. And I help people learn how to take responsibility, how to own their part, and how to, appreciate and empathize with the impact of their behavior on other people. Just an essential skill if you want to have good relationships.
Yeah. So can you tell me about the mission and practice of the Relationship School?
For sure. I want to help people just get more connected to themselves and each other. We're in a very divided world right now, and it seems that one antidote here would be to get more connected to each other and to learn how to listen differently. And so we teach communication skills and just basic relationship skills, because we weren't taught this stuff formally. And look, we all know how to communicate to some degree, but it's in our most important relationships, when we're really upset and stressed and triggered, that most of us struggle. So we're trying to build people's capacity, their skill set, and their mindset, so that they can have different outcomes, and have better, more fulfilling relationships. And then that kind of has a side benefit of addressing the mental health problem, the loneliness epidemic, if we're more connected.
So how do you facilitate those communication skills when people are generally may not have all of them, or maybe lacking in some areas?
Yeah, I watch and observe first, and I watch how people do it without instruction. And most people are winging it, with their spouse or their business partner and their kids. And that just is going to get you the results you're getting. And so I teach people, okay, I watch what they're doing, and then I basically like a ski instructor or a dance instructor. I just offer tweaks. Try this instead. Actually, this is more effective from my 20 years of experience with couples. Do this. Make a commitment to listen until the other person feels understood, for example, instead of listening, waiting your turn to then tell your partner what they did wrong. These are like basic things, but you'd be surprised how many people are not great here.
Okay, so that one part you said, it's kind of like active listening, not, or I guess it would be active listening, not just, like you said, waiting your turn to say what you want to say, but listening to what your partner has to say and then responding based on that, correct?
Yeah, and it's a commitment. It's a practice and a commitment. The commitment is, my wife sort of taught me this years ago after 3 years of defending myself, which didn't go anywhere, was if I make a commitment to listen to her until she says she feels understood, then I understand her. But a lot of people are like, no, I totally understand what you're saying. And it's like, well, why don't you ask them if they feel understood? And when they do, the other person says, no, I don't feel understood. So it's just more efficient to say, let's put the answer on the other person. When they say they feel understood, they feel understood. And so it's a commitment, and then there's a practice and a set of, skills that I teach to get there.
What are some other common things that people are doing wrong in their relationships?
They're avoiding conflict, brushing things under the rug. Most people are scared of conflict because they're scared of making it worse. They're scared of more fighting, more distance, more silence, which is very understandable. None of us like that, of course. But I like to say that for every conflict you're avoiding, you're creating a new one, and it's going underground in this big pile, and the pile just continues to get bigger until you deal with it. And it often comes out in the form of resentments or, people blow up or they make quick decisions, and the person's like, well, wow, where did that come from? And it's like, well, I've been abandoning my voice and myself for years in this marriage. And so I teach people to embrace conflict and to learn how to repair, because conflict is inevitable in any marriage. It's as long as you know how to repair, then conflict isn't a problem. But most people don't know how to repair. They don't do it well. And so the cycle of just fear and avoiding continues.
What does repair after conflict look like?
Yeah, the commitment is, let's get reconnected and make sure we both feel understood and we feel like we're a team again. That's kind of the feeling we're after is, our nervous system is relaxed. We can hug and we can look in each other's eyes, and we can love and care for each other again. Because when we're in conflict, it's sort of like we're on opposing teams and we're guarded and defensive and protecting ourselves and blaming. And so repair is the cleanup process afterwards. And most people think the repair is just to say, I'm sorry, which is completely inadequate to repair. There's a lot that has to happen before repair.
So I want to look at this from a different angle. So obviously repair after conflict, you have to go about it a certain way. But what happens when one partner, or maybe both partners in a relationship, are always in fix-it mode?
Yeah, I can relate because I have a fixer in me, and men in particular that's what they do. And a woman has strong emotions, they want to fix it, mostly because they're uncomfortable with strong emotions because they haven't learned how to feel themselves. So if people learn how to feel more, they can handle feelings without fixing. I have an acronym. I say no fracking when you're listening, and fracking stands for no fixing, rescuing, advice giving, complaining, or killing their experience. That's a frack, no fracking. It's just a good way to remember, that's not going to help the situation. Like my wife rarely, if ever, wants me to fix anything or advice or problem solving. She just wants to be seen and felt and contacted in her experience. And that's a skill, again, that if we didn't grow up with our parents doing that to us, we're not going to know how to do that for someone else. So we got to learn.
So I'm thinking about what experiences you may carry forward from your past and what types of relationships you have seen. Do you find it helpful to identify the attachment styles when you're working with individuals or couples?
I do as a practitioner. I don't tell my couples about that very often because it's a little abstract, and you can just go on Instagram and find the latest person who doesn't have experience tell you about attachment styles, and it's usually misinformed and lacks a deeper understanding of the nervous system and how babies are raised. And attachment theory and attachment science is a pretty deep field, and it's unnecessary to tell couples about that unless they really want to learn it. What couples need to know about attachment is under stress. I call it the fight below the fight. So you and I are in a relationship. We fight about finances, for example, and we can't seem to figure it out. There's that fight about the finances, but then there's what happens kind of during and after, which is you, let's say, withdraw and retreat and get quiet, and I want to talk about it. That's a really common marriage dynamic where one partner wants to talk about it, one partner wants to kind of get quiet and go away. And that dynamic itself is the attachment dynamic. And it's very frustrating, and people don't know how to tackle that and navigate it. So I just teach people, okay, what do you do when your partner withdraws? What do you do when your partner is talking too much? How do you guys handle each other then? So I don't even need to talk about attachment. It is important to identify one of you tends to withdraw and one of you tends to want to talk about it. How do we deal with that difference?
Okay, so looking at the qualities or characteristics that make themselves apparent and tackling those first.
Yeah, just because it's in language that people can understand without saying avoidant and ambivalent and anxious. It's so simple. One of you wants to talk, one of you doesn't. How do we deal with that?
Yeah. Okay. Now you mentioned social media, and how people sometimes run to that for relationship or just information in general. With the proliferation of AI and different social media platforms, how has that become not a helpful tool? It can, and sometimes a harmful tool for people who are always seeking to rely on it for relationship advice.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a doctor recently about this, and they say it's never been harder to be a doctor because their patients are coming in with a ton of misinformation from social media and ChatGPT, and they're like, well, ChatGPT says this, and well, this Instagram influencer said this. And the doctor was saying, people used to get better faster 20 years ago when I just told them to follow these 5 steps. And they weren't researching any other things, and they would just follow the 5 steps and do better. So I think that's a good example of what happens with relationship advice and therapy and coaching is people want the cheap, easy, quick solution, which is to go on social media or go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, we're in a fight. I'm in a fight with my wife. What should I do? And, there's a lot of wisdom, especially with AI. I just want to say there's a lot of benefit to trying to, have it be your coach or therapist in moments. I think that's great. But at the end of the day, you're the person that has to pick up the weights. No one can do that for you. And in a relationship, you have to lift the weights, metaphorical weights, to get a better result. It's just not enough to have the intellectual understanding, whether it's really good advice, bad advice, it doesn't matter. It's like you have to do the thing that's good for your relationship.
Exactly. You have to put in the work. You can't expect a quick fix immediately.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, if someone or a couple is looking for a therapist, relationship coach, how can they find one that's the right fit for them?
Yeah, I've done a number of podcasts on this, where unfortunately people, especially people that don't know what to do, it's like it used to be you just look in the yellow pages and you pick a name, way back in the day. Now it's you just Google or you go to your insurance company and they assign you a therapist because your insurance pays for it. To me, that's a understandable solution if you're in a low income situation. If you're in a privileged situation, I don't recommend doing that. I recommend private pay only, and talk to your entire friend network and get 3 referrals and listen for consistent names And then the person you hire, you want to interview them that they've done the work, they have more than 10 plus years experience, they're maybe married themselves or they've been divorced and remarried. You want to hire someone that's not just a blank screen. I don't think we want that anymore. The therapist that just wants to listen and not know who they are. So I think it's important to interview your therapist or coach and ask them their own track record, as well as what they study. Who do they study with? Where do they learn? What are their kind of results do they get with their clients? Just ask and advocate for yourself.
So what expectations should people have, if any, when they're going to talk therapy?
You should expect to get challenged and supported by your practitioner. If your practitioner is just collecting a paycheck and listening to you and nodding their head and validating, wow, that sounds really hard, that's not going to go anywhere long term. This is where the efficacy of therapy is pretty bad. As Rick Hansen says, therapy is good at activation, not good at installation, which just means it's not great at installing new software in you to have you change your life and get results. So you should expect some kind of accountability. Hey, let's measure my my progress over time. Whatever we're doing together should work. I should see improvement. It might get worse before it gets better, which is fine. But over time, I want to become a different person, a better listener, a better communicator, a person who's not just still mad at my parents or my ex-spouse and just pointing the finger at them. I don't want to be a victim here. So please don't support me in my victimhood. Support me in turning that V into an A, I say, where the V victim becomes an A for author. You become the author of your life, not a victim. So we should expect our therapist or coach to have that kind of mindset. Like, yeah, let's help you get empowered here. And if it's just venting and listening, then it's not enough.
So when your therapy sessions start to feel like casual conversations, that's when you might need to make a switch.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I like to call it the coffee date. If it feels like a coffee date with a friend, you're taking the wrong approach here, and you're not going to get results. So you need someone to challenge the shit out of you and help you become your best. And that's not someone who's just going to sit and listen like we're having tea or coffee.
So does talk therapy work for everyone?
No, I think talk therapy is good at helping people feel less alone, which is awesome. That is a step in the right direction. But to help someone get empowered, talk therapy usually is inadequate.
Okay. So what other resources would they need to move forward then and make real progress?
Well, the therapist has to have a coach mindset. That's why I like coaching, and that's why I train coaches. And I like the coaching industry because it's about goals and results, right? You're at point A, we want to help you get to point B. Let's help you get there, right? If you're my personal trainer, if you're my finance coach, if you're my health coach, if you're my relationship coach, like we want to improve and get stronger, better, etc. That's got to be the way we see the entire experience.
Now, I want to take a brief segue and talk about your book, Getting to Zero, and also your podcast, the Relationship School podcast. For your book, what was the process for distilling down all of your experience and making it into an accessible guide for readers?
Yeah, it was such a cool process. Thanks for asking. It was I'd been teaching this stuff for, over a decade. And I kept, it's like in your work, you probably see themes and patterns, right? With people, and they repeat, and then you write them down. You're like, oh, that's interesting. This is the 10th person that said this exact thing. So I started doing that. I started compiling notes, and then I was blogging and writing about this way back on Facebook, and I had a WordPress blog. And I started just to, organize it, and then eventually it became a class. And then the class got better and better, and then I was like, okay, I just want to put this into a book. So the book was fairly easy in that way because I'd already been teaching it so long. And then it helped me refine my ideas and make them better and stronger and more kind of practical.
Excellent. So in the Relationship School podcast, what kind of impact have you seen from this?
It's wild. As a fellow podcaster, like you're just talking into the air, right? Sometimes, and you have no idea, like, is anyone listening to this? And obviously, I can look at the stats and see that 8 million or whatever downloads is a lot of people or a lot of downloads. And then occasionally, it's really cool that someone will bump into me in Vancouver at a Whole Foods and say, "Oh, you're Jayson. I've listened to your podcast for years," or "It's really helped me," or I get the occasional email from someone or the review on Apple Podcasts saying this changed my life and saved my marriage or helped me end a marriage. Yeah, it's like that. I'm assuming we have an impact, and occasionally I hear from people, and it feels like okay, it's having an impact.
Yeah, even the one comment or the one interaction, it means something.
Yeah, it does.
Now, I want to go back to your mission and practice. What do you believe is key to having a successful long-term relationship?
Yeah, two things. My wife kind of reminds me of this one, which is the couple has to be able to talk about the relationship. It sounds really basic, but it's amazing how many people can't even talk about the relationship without their partner shutting down or it starting a fight or it turning into a big thing, or they refuse to talk about it. It's like, hey, can we just talk about our relationship and where we're at? It feels kind of like we're disconnected and I'd like to get reconnected. You have to be able to have those conversations on the regular, which means daily, weekly, monthly, whatever is necessary. Because the relationship's always changing. New challenges are coming in, whether it's kids or financial challenges or health problems. You got to be able to talk. How's our team doing? Mm-hmm. Hey, what's up? We're a team here. We got to act like it. That's number one. The second one is I've already spoken to, but just to reiterate it, which is the willingness and ability to repair every single conflict that comes up between you two. That is the master key and master skill in a marriage is you got to know how to repair every snag and challenge you get into. And if you do those two things, your relationship is likely to be more secure, more strong, more stable over time. It'll have a stronger foundation to weather the storms that will come.
So how can couples create that judgment-free space within their marriage or relationship to acknowledge where they themselves can improve, but also where their relationship can make progress and move forward?
As early as possible in the relationship, you got to set up, it can be part of your vows, but eventually you want the vows, usually people's vows are inadequate. You want to set up agreements. And the main agreement, two agreements here to go along with those two things I said are we agree that we can always talk about the relationship. It might be upsetting, it might be uncomfortable, but we will never shut down a conversation about us and our teamness, and we agree. So whether you're in a relationship for 20 years or 2 years, get it in place, get that agreement in place or something like it. And the second one would be we agree to repair every single fight we get into within 24 hours. If we don't know how, we'll hire help, we'll take classes, and we will figure it out. Do you agree? Yes. Do you agree? Yes. Okay, cool. That can, that's just a commitment, right? It's like, I agree to ask for help when I'm struggling. It's scary for some of us and we want to wing it, but that doesn't usually get you where you want to go.
So people they're making that commitment not only to themselves, but also to the future health and well-being of their relationship too.
Exactly. Yep.
Great. Now, I want to thank you for your time for being on the episode, but before we go, what's the best way for listeners to reach you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Jayson Gaddis. That's JAYSON GADDIS, or you can go to relationshipschool.com and find our courses and podcast there.
Great. Thank you. That will be included in the episode notes so people can reach you if they missed that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective today.
Yeah, thanks, Libby.
That's our show, folks. Thank you for listening to our Prenup Lawyer. Make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to drop a comment below. Follow us on Instagram at Our Prenup Lawyer, and listen to us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and watch us on YouTube. See you guys next time.